If you ever wondered what it would be like if Stephen Sondheim was born in a coffee shop in Williamsburg, Eleri Ward is your answer. She is an actress and now a recording artist who goes by Sufjan, which gives us the opportunity to hear reimagined Sondheim songs to the style of Sufjan Stevens. And her album is coming out on June 4th with Ghostlight Records. They record Broadway cast recordings, and they're recording you.
I know, it's so weird.
How did this happen?
I mean, from the first Sufjan video that I ever posted 2 years ago to now, it's kind of insane. So starting from then, I just like nothing really happened when I was posting these videos to YouTube and whatever. But I continued to make them. And then it wasn't until January, February, when I started a TikTok, that I posted my Sufjan stuff on there. I was like, okay, if I'm going to start a TikTok, I have all this content that I guess I can just like backlog, onto my TikTok, which is really what I did. And when people responded to my first post, my first like Joanna video, I was like, whoa, like this is so wild how I've gone all this time just kind of like quietly doing this thing, but there's like a whole other audience out there for this that I didn't even know was there until now. And so I continued posting them to TikTok, and people continued to ask for me to put these songs and these arrangements on Spotify and Apple Music and like release them.
2 years to get anything happening with this, and that speaks so much to like the opportunity that you create for yourself being the engine for your career, which is like something that people don't realize. Like when you make your own shit, there's so much more power in that.
Yeah, and I was always someone who admired people who make their own stuff and like create their own opportunities, but I never really saw where I could do that or what I was passionate enough about to have that happen. So this kind of like fell into my lap in that way. Like I didn't expect for this to be that big opportunity that I would create for myself, but it was. And I think all it takes is finding the right audience for the thing that you're making, because there is one out there. You just need to find it. And I thankfully found mine. And then it wasn't until, so I made a TikTok being like, Broadway World, I really want you to write an article about my album, like, please. And they responded, and then they did. And I did like a little like Q&A with them. And then after that came out, I got an email from the president of Ghostlight Records just reaching out and saying,
the president of Ghostlight Records? Oh my God.
Yeah, I was like, what? Like, I don't get these types of emails. I check my email all the time in the hopes that maybe I'll get one of these emails, but I never do. And then I did. And he basically was just saying, like, I love what you're doing. And he also is the SVP at Warner Chappell Music, who is Sondheim's publisher. And I was like, what the heck? And he basically just said, how can I help you? And I was like, I don't know, in any way you want.
Who says that? I've never heard that is wild.
Yeah, I know. It's so wild. Like, I can't believe that's this is a real story that I'm telling you right now. Like, what? Yeah. And so from there, things just kind of snowballed and led to me signing a distribution deal with them. And it's just so crazy. It happened so quickly.
It always does. When it rains, it
right.
like pours. That's literally what always happens. You get
right.
like one thing, and then you get like 4 other things happening at the same time.
It's been such a ride, and I'm so grateful for every single moment of it. Like, from the first people who ever commented on my videos way back in 2019 to the people who are finding it now and can't wait for the album to come out.
Speaking on this audience that has found you, it makes a lot more sense that they found you during the pandemic, right? Because there's such a desire and like a lack thereof of this art form that like we've been practicing. And it makes perfect sense that at a time like this, like you creating your own thing that never really existed before for Sondheim, it makes total sense. And people have done that frequently. Like I'm seeing Larry Owens has a residency at like 54 Below, the guy who was like in a strange loop. Sondheim feels like the Chekhov of musical theater a little bit.
Yeah, he's kind of like this keystone, omnipresent force in musical theater that I will never tire, because he's so deeply rooted in this real take on humanity. And that's what makes him so poignant to me, and why I feel like interpreting him in this style that is very introspective and soft, and like so what I really draw inspiration from is Carrie and Lowell by Sufjan Stevens, which is all about death. And it's very simplistic, but so like heart-wrenching. And I just think that when you kind of strip Sondheim down to that layer of just like rawness, it just like highlights the meaning of his lyrics and of his music as well. That is like heartbreaking in the best way possible. Like it hurts so good, you know?
Yeah, I do. And so often people don't want to talk about all of those like scary things about mortality and feelings of sorrow and all of those things. But I feel like when you do it in a way that's earnest and poignant and in Sondheim's way witty, I think that people attach to it, and culturally it becomes something like tangible. You know, I kept getting like called in for Sondheim things recently, and only now I was like, wait, this shit slaps. Like, I don't know why I never thought that before, why I didn't realize it harder. I knew it was dope, but like even Into the Woods, you could write it off as some fairy tale musical, and I'm sure so many people do.
And that is also like what I love so much, is that juxtaposition. There is this kind of playing of opposites that he masters so well, that is just so satisfying. I mean, when someone gives you something that looks like a thing, and then it also sounds like a thing, and it makes you feel like a thing, it's kind of redundant. It doesn't necessarily pull the emotion out of you, but when it kind of turns it on its head, that's when you're like, ooh, this made me feel a type of way because I thought it was this, but it's actually this. Yes. You know,
people aren't patient to get to act 2 in that show, man. And I'm like, that's the whole fucking point. That's where the satisfaction is. That's where the humanity is. It's not in the fairy tale. It's in the humanity of the fairy tale.
I've been kind of a Sondheim nerd ever since high school. So I went to an arts high school in the city of Chicago, and I majored in musical theater. And the head of my department, Andy Robinson, he is like the biggest Sondheim stan ever. And which I'm so grateful for, because he really is the one who influenced me and showed me the world of Sondheim, where I didn't totally know what it was before. Like, I knew who Sondheim was, obviously, and like knew what his music was, but I had never studied it, and I never let myself kind of be like enveloped by it. And so we kind of like always did a Sondheim show at my school, which I'm like, I feel blessed to have experienced. But yeah, like it was in high school when my teacher showed us all the Sondheim birthday concert, and like that whole leading ladies section with all of them wearing red, like blew my 15-year-old mind.
Yes.
Like it truly changed my life. And then I remember my junior year, we did company. And after we did the show, you know, when you're done with a show, no one really wants to do class. So my teacher showed us the company documentary of them recording the cast recording. And that also blew my mind and changed my life. I was like, this is like, there's something so raw about it that I had never really, I don't know, it gives you this different perspective into like the world of theater, and like everyone recording is so like just bare. I don't know, it was just so cool. And obviously I love that musical. So I was just like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And from there, I don't know, I've always been attracted to his voice and his style. And also in high school, my mom got us tickets for, I think it was called like an evening with Stephen Sondheim at the Harris Theater in Chicago. And it literally was just watching him be interviewed. Like it was just a night of him talking and sharing stories and anecdotes and like all these like little insightful things about his work and his life. And I was like, what? This is so cool. Like it was so amazing, and I will never forget it. It was awesome. And now for me to be like doing what I'm doing now, I'm like, wow, okay, this man truly has been with me my entire career in musical theater.
He was there the whole time. For me,
Yeah.
you brought up the leading ladies before, and
Mm.
that just sort of brings to mind my stan, Elaine Stritch. She is like the baddest one. She really
Absolutely.
is. They don't make Elaine Stritches anymore. God made one. Favorite memory is got to be like some her I'm Still Here, that at that concert, and
Yes.
honestly anyone. She does one on her special at Liberty, and
yeah, and he always writes new lyrics for each performance that she did of that song.
Really?
Yeah, that were relevant to the time.
Wow. I did
Isn't
not
that the
know
coolest?
that.
Yeah, that's why if you look back on like all the different performances she's done of that, there are different lyrics in most of them because he like continued to write new ones for her, which is so special.
What a goddamn gift. She's doing some interview that I was watching the other day. Well, obviously it was from like 10 years ago. But somebody was like asking at the 92nd Street, why do you wear such fabulous glasses? And she's like, because I'm fabulous. Yeah, she knows how to like really hold a self-esteem as a leading lady. And I think if more people got into their Stritch like earlier on in their life, that we would all be like so much more fortified. This industry could not tear us down the way it does sometimes.
I'm really glad you said that, because I need to like write that down in my journal and just like, I need to practice my inner Stritch more often. So I'm going to take that with me.
There's a lot of different ways to like manifest self-esteem. I don't have like a great self-esteem about myself like in this industry sometimes, because as you and I know, like we are very unique characters in this industry.
Yeah, it can be really challenging to be in your own lane, because there isn't the comfort of looking to your right and seeing someone doing the same thing that makes you feel safe in what you're doing. Like when you look around, there's no one else. You feel like all alone in the thing that you're doing. And you're like, I have no marker to make sure what I'm doing is okay or good. Or if it can be so scary. And I get it. Like my self-esteem sometimes is like, oh my God, I'm the worst and no one gets it and blah, blah, blah. But you just have to keep going in the lane that you're meant to be in, because someone will get it sometime. Like, and to me, I feel like I will live and die on this hill. Just don't stop going down that lane. I mean, like we were saying, it's taken years for me to get this project to go anywhere, let alone for me to feel like it even really has a space anywhere. But it does, and no one else has done it before, which is always what made me feel like self-conscious about it. But because of that, it is what it is now. And I just I can't encourage everyone enough to just stay on the path that they are meant to stay on, no matter how tempting it is to want to go where other people are going, because that feels more secure. It's not meant to be easy. Otherwise, everyone would do it. Everyone
Right.
would be successful,
You just got to do your own fuck thing. It's like so much easier. I know it doesn't look like it's easier, but it is, because you at least have the security of like your own creativity and not somebody else's. You know, it's funny. I had like reached out to you after I saw like a couple of these things, because I was like, this is inhumane. This is incredible. This is crazy. And then I was stunned to see that like I work at MCC Theater in development, and I was working the gala that night. In a long story short, my friend got injured at a rock climbing gym earlier that day,
Oh my
and I
God.
ended up working on the public Wi-Fi of the rock climbing gym and spent my miscast working in a rock climbing gym, which
Oh my God.
was inconceivable. And there you fucking were with your agony cover. And I was not surprised, because I was like, okay, she's already singing songs. She's already doing miscast. She's miscast in everything she does.
Yeah, that's why when I saw that challenge was a thing, I was like, oh, I have to do this, because this is literally what I do. Like,
Have
I
you
didn't
heard of
even think
miscast
twice.
before?
Absolutely. And so when I saw that they were doing a TikTok challenge, I was like, of course I'm going to do this. Like, there's no question about it. I felt so grateful for them to have chosen to feature my video. I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah, but it makes sense, because also people weren't doing stylistically different. That's what's exciting about Miscast, is that they actually reach out to these artists and they create arrangements for them. You didn't even have to, you didn't even need anybody else. You already made your own like stylistic choices on top of like just playing the character differently, because we could all lower the key of the karaoke track, can't we? But like you did, like, you already do a little more than that, so like that already gets you in so many different doors, because like we said, you're creating your own opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been, honestly, more than anything, just super fun to continue making these arrangements, because there is always another one to do. The Sondheim canon is so expansive, and the amount of ways that I can interpret any of those songs within the style that I'm working with is also so expansive. It's so fun.
Is there any part of the canon that like scares you a little bit, or that like you don't know how to approach, and like you're like, what am I gonna do?
Well, I got to be honest, it happens a lot where I'm like, oh, I don't know exactly how I'm going to tackle this specific song. Or like, I mean, I think the thing that scares me the most is doing anything comedic, because I'm like, does that fit with my aesthetic? Like, it could, because even Sufjan himself uses humor in his music. So I have a list that I keep in my phone of the ones that I want to do at some point, and some come to me right away, don't have to think twice about it. And some of them have taken like a year for me to finally find a thing. It's like I just return to it from a new place, a fresh perspective. And I sit with my guitar and I'm like, what will come out for this specific song today? Oh, it's not totally working. I'll revisit it in a couple months, and then it might show up. I know that's how I felt about Children Will Listen for a long time. Like, I spent a very long time with Children Will Listen on my list and revisiting it. I think I revisited it maybe like 4 or 5 times until I finally found it. And like, now it's like one of my favorite things that I've made on the album. I haven't released a video of it yet, but on the album, it is like very much what it was meant to be. And if it took that many times to try to figure it out, that's okay, because it ended up showing up at some point. I don't rush it. I don't try to force it. If it isn't there, I will return to it at a different time, because every single arrangement is meant to arise out of an organic place. I would never try to like force an arrangement on any of these songs.
No, that's really great to hear because it does feel organic. I would say though, my favorite arrangement is the Losing My Mind arrangement that you made. That's just like a little grungier, because like in my mind for so long, that's like what I want to do to musical theater. I want to like just shake its senses out and be like, this is crazy. Like this can be so high octane. Like,
Right.
yeah.
I think, I mean, I'm kind of like counterculture on musical theater. I don't, okay, so I love a good, fierce, mixed belt, like MT moment just as much as the next girl. I really do. Like it, like you can make my goosebumps
For sure,
come
for
out with
sure,
a
for
good
sure.
belt. But at the same time, I don't believe that that is necessarily the best vehicle for musical theater to kind of arrive with, because I mean, art is about kind of exploring humanity, and humanity is imperfect. It is flawed. It is messy. It is not always, you know, sunshine and rainbows and, you know, mixed belt.
Yeah.
um, and so I feel like taking taking theater and putting it in clothes that embody that imperfection and that messiness and that darkness sometimes is so much more indicative of the stories that we're trying to tell. So that's my stance. That's my stance.
It's a great stance because I agree that vocally we are trying to stuff like a huge like circle in like a little square. And I always think that it comes off so antiquated sometimes, especially the stuff from like 30 years ago. It's like, wow, they like really thought that that was it. And you know what? Yes, I do love like Bernadette Peters going like, and until I die, and like we could all hear that for fucking ever. Great. But like it's not like all that there is, and it's not that it
Right.
doesn't all just lead up to that. Cause
Right.
like,
It shouldn't be the end all be all. And there's room for so many sounds to tell these stories. Musical theater has not set the standard for popular music, except for like primarily between the 1920s when it first was emerging and through the 1940s, maybe a little bit the 50s, but then rock and roll started happening.
right.
And then ever since then, it's been trying to play catch up with the modern times and popular music.
Yeah, the tenor belt is like the new centrifuge of like vocally acceptable culture in theater, and it's so toxic because I am a high tenor, and like I'm sorry, bro, like I can be Michael McDonald once a day, maybe once a week, and that's it. It's not how if you do that over and over and over, it's like it's masochistic. It really is.
But on that same case, it's like, yeah, if we learn how to do multiple things with our voices, then we can allow different types of music to be, you know, sung through us. Like,
Yeah.
you know, so I went to Berklee College of Music for a year. That was like my first year of college. And my first, it was called ensemble. It really is just you singing with a band, and like learning different songs and learning how to communicate with a band and stuff, about like what you want. And I, like my first song assignment, I had this like really hard teacher. He was like super tough, and he was
Mr.
like,
Carp. No.
yeah, he was intense, and I was like super afraid of him. So I sang my first song. I don't even remember what it was, but he was like, okay, so you do musical theater, and this is how I know, and this is how we're going to change it, because you're singing a blues song and you're not doing blues because you're not in the pocket of the groove. So let's learn the groove so that you can learn how to sing blues, and then we'll do that with every genre. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like fully called out, but like I need this. And ever since then, it's like, yeah, like there are all these different styles, and we learn how to kind of differentiate what they are because of these certain qualities and these certain grooves and these certain intonations and like the way we pronounce things even. And it was just so eye-opening that the musical theater sound, quote unquote, is this very specific thing that I think lives in a very specific box. But there are all these other colors that we can be painting with when we're making music.
I definitely feel that way about being a teenager and loving musical theater. And I think the exclusivity of just liking that was like, it wasn't until college. It sounds so fucking corny, the way I say it, but like until I realized there's like other music that I fucked with that wasn't just musical theater, that like it literally, luckily I had been trained like by like a chorus teacher that of course made me into that guy who like makes me sing like that.
We all have that chorus teacher.
Exactly.
We need them.
You need that. But what you also need at that time, and if this would have changed, we would have been tick-tocking like lunatics at teenagers if we had the like additional musical palette beyond that. What I love about your voice is like, you know, you even talk about it yourself. You have like a very specific break that doesn't really match up with like how we've all been taught to sing. And I think it's a gift that like you have that, because most people, it's just like an untapped market. Your voice is an untapped market. Let's celebrate.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, especially because it's been quite the journey to come to where I am now in terms of my confidence around that. Because while I've always been confident as a singer, I wasn't always confident in where I fit because I never felt like I fit. Even when I learned how to belt, even when I can sing a soprano song, I can do those things, but I never felt like I fully thrived in those spaces or like got the recognition that other people got about it. And it's like, okay, well, those things have never felt like my home base. So why would I beat myself up about something that isn't where I live? You know, like I can go visit and have a wonderful vacation, but it isn't where I live. And where my voice just naturally goes when I just open my mouth and let it go is that, you know, is that break. And the thing that I didn't like about my voice, that break, that ability to totally flip from chest voice to head voice, is the thing that makes me now. And I can fully embrace that. And it's now my signature thing. Like and it always, that just talking about that and saying that out loud always reminds me of RuPaul, because RuPaul always talks about how the thing that you probably don't like about yourself, like that thing that you're insecure about, is usually the thing that becomes your signature and becomes the thing that makes you. Because the things we're insecure about because they're not like anybody else.
I definitely thought that your voice also sounds like, you know, Lake Street Dive. It definitely, the way that like Rachel Price just like flips into her falsetto is like very much like that. She has all of those crazy stylings. What other music do you fuck with?
So my all-time favorite artist, which it's a new development. I discovered her last year, and since then she has changed my life. Her name is Caroline Polachek. She is everything to me. I am obsessed with her. She kind of embodies everything I want to be, which is, she started out with a little indie pop band called Chairlift, indie pop duo. You probably know some of their songs. They were really popular when I was in like middle school. That like, I wanna do handstands with you. Da, 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 da. That was them. And that, yeah.
A little transported there. I was like,
Yeah.
wait a second, I do know that song.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And so that was where she started. And then she also, that's how she like put herself on the map. But she also has this like other moniker that she wrote a couple of albums under called Ramona Lisa, where she recorded everything on her laptop, like even used the laptop microphone to sing into. It's so weird and cool. And then she also makes electronic instrumental music under CEP, which she recorded this one album that's like all made with sound waves. Like that's how she made the music. It's wild. And then she finally came out with her debut album under Caroline Polachek in 2019. And every single song is amazing. And if you know that song that's like, so hard you're hurting my feelings, can't deal. That's her. She's amazing. But anyway, her voice is wild. Her range is crazy. And she yodels like nobody's business in the most satisfying way. And like her Caroline Polachek vibe is all like electro pop. And that is very much the world that I live in when I write my own music. And yeah, I'm obsessed with her ability to just create whatever art she wants to create in whatever way she wants to create it. Caroline Polachek is like my number one. And then I also am head over heels in love, and it's been a long time, a long affair with Leanne La Havas. She is stunningly gorgeous in every way. Oh Cinema is my favorite Leanne La Havas song. If you've never heard it, please do yourself a favor. It's just so good. Yeah, she's amazing. Just all she needs, she could sing the same note over and over again, and it would still be the most intriguing thing that you've heard because of her vocal texture and her tone and the way that she just like lures you in with her sound. Oh God.
Vulfpeck also like sort of amazes me a little bit. They're like
they're so cool.
It's pretty groovy. They literally take so many chances with their sound as a collective, and they don't mind putting other people at the forefront as well.
No, I'm just obsessed with what you just said, because I think taking any ego out of the art that you're making is going to make your art the best ever. And that's what makes them successful in the way that you just said.
My choir teacher told me, because I was the only person to want to go into the arts in our like whole community of like choir and theater and all that. Everybody else was like doing something like sustainable, as the word was. And he told me like, this is 0.01%, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I hear you. I hear that like that many people make it, and that's so cool. But like, I don't care. And he was like, okay, but it's gonna take forever. And that I'm only starting to realizing now is not like, it's not this terrible thing. You know, there's so much time that you could spend incubating your own work. And if the work is good, then who gives a fuck?
Life takes a long time. Like learning who I am takes a long time. Learning how to share that knowledge of who I am with others takes a long time. Like, yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson, that's how I think about it. Samuel L. Jackson wasn't notable until he was 46 years old.
You want to play games, motherfucker?
I tend to see the most successful work I do is when I don't give a fuck about any of my choices.
Anything. It has been an interesting journey for me to discover those things for myself. And COVID, while a very trying time for all of us, has been something that I would never take back for the world, for myself, because in this time that I've been able to be introspective and kind of take a step back to look at everything going on in my life and who I am and what I want to do, has really allowed me to fully embrace those things about myself that are me that I questioned before when I was like in the hustle and the grind amidst everybody else, that I'm like so excited to go back out there now because I've learned so much about myself. Now I just want to share it.
Yeah.
Now it's like I've taken this time to be alone with who I am in order to like kind of solidify that for myself and my confidence and know it wholeheartedly. I'm not like lying to myself. I'm not persuading myself. I just am. And I'm just like so ready now to like approach the theater industry with that version of me that wasn't totally there before. Like I've always been doing me, but I still had my eye kind of like, okay, what else? Like, what else are people doing? Like, well, who are they saying yes to? Who are they saying no to? Are they saying yes to me? Are they saying no to me? Like now it's like, I really don't care. Now I really, really don't care. And it feels great.
Right. It's empowering because you
Absolutely.
ultimately realize that nobody is going to give you exactly what you want in this industry. You have to take it. You took it by reaching out to those Broadway World people. And people clown on Broadway World all the time. And like, I get that. Anybody can put shit on there. But you reached out, you took that impetus to excel everything, and they saw that shit. And there's power in, we're not taught to flock our feathers. L. Morgan Lee came on this podcast and told me that shit. She is this incredible actress. She's starring in The Danish Girl in West End, and she's in A Strange Loop, and she's
I love that. I'm taking that with me. It's so easy to think the opposite because it feels safer, but I don't know. I think now that I don't ever want to fall prey to the flocking that I've done in the past again. It's like, okay, now I need to take that individuality that I love about myself now and celebrate it and share it. And we all have the same resources to do so. Like, I don't know, we all have TikTok, we all have Instagram. Like we can all reach out to publications. Like we all have the same amount of resources. It's just about what you do with it once you believe in yourself enough to do it. Like it's getting over the imposter syndrome.
Exactly.
Because when you're in the flock of it all, you're like, oh, okay, like I'm fine. Like people are validating that I'm okay. And then when you take yourself out of it, you're like, well, this isn't what I felt before, so this has to be an imposter. Like I'm not meant to just like stand on my own, but you are the only you on the planet. That's the most like singular, unique thing ever. So why would you try to be something else or do something else or try to change yourself in order to meet that like flock like expectation, especially when expectations, quote unquote, are all made up. They're literally all made up. So make up new ones for yourself that make you feel empowered and good and celebrated, you know?
And I think I heard Seth Rogen of all people say this recently, but every time he goes into like a room with some like high power people, he realizes, oh, they're like, they have no idea what they're doing just as much as I don't. And there's a lot of like culture in our industry of like appeasing these gatekeepers, and I know that word is so like for those people,
but it's real.
It's what they are. And like I even went on a Clubhouse into one of these rooms, and I shouldn't have. I was saying on this Clubhouse like that's just something you have to do to protect your actors. And they were like, well, I wouldn't use that word for us. We don't think of ourselves as gay. And I would avoid using that word in the future when you're talking to people like us. And I'm like, but you just said people like you. Like that makes you exactly what I say. You know, you are the moderators of this room. Like, what are you if not the people that like let people come up to speak? Like, I'm sorry, you don't like that word, but that has nothing to do with me.
Absolutely. And I know that I have definitely felt like that kind of behavior or that kind of like environment is so prevalent in so many auditions I've been to, or like whatever workshop or masterclass or whatever. Because it's like, all right, well, it's like when things are like precast but they still have auditions, or like, it's like, okay, why are we doing this? Why are we pretending like we're not doing it to begin with? Why can't we just be upfront that you precast this show with the people that you enjoy working with? There's that. But then there's also like the idea that these gatekeepers want to gaslight those of us who aren't up there at their level into thinking that they do know what they're doing, that they do know everything, even when they don't. I have felt many a time that I am like being kept down here so that I don't expose them up there. And I'm ready to not have that anymore. I'm ready to expose them. I'm ready for things to just like be. I wish, kind of going back to the dropping your ego about stuff, drop your ego about it, and we'll all be on the same page and we'll all feel better about everything that we do.
I wish they would too. And I don't know how extensively those practices are going to change from when we come back, because that wasn't a real discussion that was going on. The real discussion that was going on was in the theater and the entire industry regarding like the racial inequities that like so many people were like very quick to just glance over. Almost to this week, it like started that like 5 days of response before June. It was just like a hurdle and the wicked meme of like them in the green handing like hand with each other, and I was like, how did you do this? How did you do this? And then even Lin coming out and being like, Lin-Manuel Miranda just saying, what is it? He was like,
I didn't hear about what he said. Please enlighten me.
Yeah, he made a statement with his producer about Hamilton because it had I think it was like maybe like May 31st he said it. So like this was really like in the eye of like before as the protests were starting, but like it wasn't as like exponential yet in that way. And Broadway and everybody was sort of scrambling to show the world that like they care. It was much more about the pageantry of it, and talked about this a little bit lately, but the pageantry of this industry is probably the most damning part of it. And it's ironic because it's the part we see the most. We see these awards shows, we're like, ooh, that could be me. But like, no, it's all fake. That's like a sliver of these people's lives. The rest we don't see. We don't see the messy shit. And that's why I fuck with like, I brought up A Strange Loop before. That musical won the Pulitzer Prize for drama last year, and it was just a show at Playwrights Horizons that like completely changed the way I perceived musical theater, because I even found like my own entryway in it in different ways. But it's about the like Black queer experience and dealing with like size in the industry and in health, and how we perceive the messiness of like our humanity. And like, quite frankly, it's celebrated now. And I think even like Variety or somebody like that was like, A Strange Loop is the messy show that we need. And it's like, girl, that is not how that's not. But ultimately, yeah, we need to learn to like sort of, not make this, not center in musical theater these like high power stories. I think musical theater at this point is still the most antiquated art form that still sort of appeases, it's like sort of performs for the king in that way. And I think it's still like that, and everything else has kind of moved on. But even on Broadway, like you're still seeing all these shows about like billionaires and Tea Time with Faye Dunaway. Like, who gives a shit, bro? Like, there's so many more people you could reach.
so many shows that I just the only reason they're made is because some old white producer said yes. Like I just and you know, I do understand that Broadway is a tourist destination for people in the middle of nowhere to go see. And so I understand there are certain stories that aren't necessarily going to play to those audiences. But do they all have to be the same? And like, if I see one more show on Broadway about white high schoolers, I'm just going to lose my mind.
Like, slam on the brakes.
But it's like, if people from all over the country and like middle America are seeing those shows on Broadway, like, why can't we take that as an opportunity to educate in the form of musical theater? I don't know. Like, it doesn't have to be the most like unpalatable, like crazy groundbreaking way of telling those stories. It can still work for commercial theater and for the mainstream audience, but telling them a different story than they've ever heard before to broaden their perspective and their idea of what theater is or what the world is like out there.
We could talk about Dear Evan Hansen, but instead I think we should just end here. I'm taking up so much of your time, and
no,
I very
this is
much
so great.
Yeah, and I am so excited to see all of your work come out. It was a privilege to chat with you, and your work is fucking wild, and I can't wait for people to see it even more than they already have. The 12-year-olds on TikTok know about it. Bernie Telsey knows about it, and now it's everybody else's turn. So y'all should check out Eleri Ward's new album coming out June 4th with Ghostlight Records. She also goes by Sufjan, and it's like indie folk covers of Sondheim songs in the style of Sufjan Stevens. Fuck yes, I said it right. It is always like a challenge because there's a J there, so who knows? But
yeah,
Eleri, thank you so much for coming through. And
thank you. Are you kidding me? Thank you for having me, for letting me talk your ear off about all this stuff, and for just having me, for being you.